Welcome to this week's episode of Slow Love Unravelled. I'm Holly.
I'm Isabel.
And we're going to discuss our spring-summer launch that we've just had at the Hoxton. So we're just going to go over what's worked. And we're also going to discuss we're going to talk about the budgeting, which I think is quite a huge thing for us. It was the biggest event we've put on so far by a long shot. So there's a process, there's a reason and a process behind it. It was like organising a small wedding. Yeah. Really, wasn't it? So the back end, we always make it look like we're just easy breezy, cool, but sometimes it's not like that behind the scenes.
It's not glam, is it? The logistics was fun, but it's not very glamorous.
No. I mean, it is a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
It is. But so worth it. It was so good, wasn't it?
It was. I honestly, I don't think it's quite caught up with me yet. Because I think I was so nervous. I wasn't nervous about meeting people because a lot of the customers we have met before, and there were some that we would really keen to meet who have been with us since the beginning that we knew were coming. So, and I just think we know our customers so well and they're all so amazing. Like, I think maybe last year I would have been nervous that nobody turned up, but I knew these guys would turn up and I was really excited to meet them. So I wasn't nervous about that. I think it was such a big event for us. It was just nerves about that going all according to plan and then the actual launch, and I was really nervous. So the Zodiac collection, for example, I wasn't nervous about releasing at all because it was just such a sort of...
It was like fail-safe, wasn't it?
Yeah, but this was so different. So I was just really nervous about how it would be received. So I think actually Saturday morning when we were in Borough Market, I actually felt like I did a sort of kind of, know, when you just have that, it worked.
Yeah.
It was a real sort of moment. I think Oscar was like chatting to this old guy who owns this like specialist tea shop. If you guys are Londoners, you probably would know the name of it, but it's in Borough Market. It's actually one of these shops in it. And he was in there chatting to this guy about this special like jasmine tea for ages. And I was just there and sort of took this deep breath. And it actually made me feel slightly lightheaded, almost just that kind of relief. It was. I felt like it was my nervous system just going, "It's all right. Yeah, you've done it." Yeah. And it was a real like. Oh.
And I also think I think it's really important for us as a team. Like ultimately, we're all nervous and we're busy and with that, but I think that no one other than you like truly feels that kind of, oh my God, how is it going to go? We obviously do, but that it's not our business. And so I think it's so different for you. There's always going to be that little bit of extra kind of, subconscious thoughts of like, God, how have I done this right? And also for not only the customer, but possibly like for the team as well.
Because that's the responsibility that you feel that it's, if this really tanked, we'd obviously would be okay, but it wouldn't, obviously it's not an ideal situation. And there's a lot of moving parts at the moment. So for this to go well, it means that it will enable us to do this. And it means that, autumn, winter again it's very different. It's more traditional Slow Love, as in it's quite sort of bright, vibrant motifs, but it's also, there is a few more sort of demure pieces. So it's like a combination of what we've given you for spring, summer, but also just very true Slow Love. And it's big. So I think it was like, okay, this has been well received. It means that we're going on the right path. So it was like all of those things. It was like,
What's really interesting, I think, and this is kind of why I really believe that everything happens for a reason and kind of serendipity and stuff, is that we had started planning an event late last year.
Yeah.
And it was a very kind of what lots of other brands do, which it really works. I'm not kind of poo-pooing what they're doing or anything like that. But we were kind of going down that same traditional path of it being very heavily like press, influencers, any kind of celebrity, semi-celebrity contacts that we've got, or have the knitwear, and like really honing in on that circle, which in the grand scheme of things is actually, compared to a customer base, is incredibly small. And it's like they are getting offers like this all the time. So it's really tricky. And kind of from the get-go, it felt really hard in all aspects. You know, when you're like, you have a relationship or a friendship and it's like really hard work to like make it feel good. It was like that. It didn't feel good.
No, it didn't feel good. And I remember when we went to London and had a look around at different venues, and there was a lot of sort of like, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And Shah was with me, and we went for a drink at the end of the day, just to sort of decompress and me to kind of gather my thoughts, because it was basically like, if we're not going to use these venues, we need to find like an alternative by tomorrow. So I felt this pressure really closing in, and the financial pressure and the pressure of the event, and I just wasn't sitting well, and I was really cross about certain things that just felt like it was kind of being forced on us. And I said, and when I basically made that, we were only there for one drink, and in that like 45 minutes I'd made my decision to just can it, pull the plug. And I said to Shah, I feel like this is what an arranged marriage feels like, and I'm being forced down the aisle, and I'm not happy about it. So we're not doing it.
Yeah, and nothing felt natural, did it?
No.
And then I think when we chatted about it in our weekly meeting the following week, it was like a really cohesive decision that, why are we not doing like a press event, but we're inviting our customers? And it just immediately, everyone was like, oh my God, yeah, completely. That's totally right. And then, because that delayed the planning, it was perfect for spring, summer. And I couldn't actually think of a more perfect collection that Slow Love have done to date to have an in real life event for, because it is so different. Yeah. And so much of the feedback during the event really played into that thought process, and it was just
I wish that we had Evie here. Evie is one of our girls she's at uni and comes to help here sometimes, and she came to help at the event. She was if any of you were listening who were at the event, she was wearing the buttermilk sailor tee, but she was sort of on the fitting rooms, wasn't she? She's actually at the London College of Fashion, so she's doing her degree in fashion. But I would have loved to have heard like the instant feedback. I think it was just, there was so much going on. And obviously when people chatted to me, I did get feedback, but it was quite a lot of, I feel like you want to be there listening to the actual comments while people are trying it on, don't you? So
we spoke about, when we were kind of planning this podcast, one of the points was to be, what was our kind of favourite bit about the event. And so we had set up, so for those of you who weren't at the event, the space that we had rented was, it's called The Apartment. It's in a hotel, and their event space is called The Apartment, and it is literally like an apartment. It doesn't have a bed in it, but it is laid out like a penthouse apartment, basically. So it's a really cool space. Yeah. And two of the rooms we had created as like a really big special changing room, because we wanted people to feel like it was a real, almost like a personal shopping experience, and they could really go in. At both of the changing rooms had a rail with all the knitwear on, so they could feel and see everything up close without everyone being around them.
And there was a huge queue for it at one point. It was quite
a huge
open.
Queue. And we had kind of envisaged it being one in, one out, or two couple in, couple out. And Evie was kind of manning them, and she could get in between the changing rooms on the inside, so she can go and grab stuff for people. Anyway, within like the first 15 minutes of the doors being opened, and it was like the most like sisterhoody thing I'd ever seen. Just piles of women just in the changing rooms, all together, tops off, bottoms off, just
Yeah.
loving on each other so much and just shouting across like, oh my God, that looks so good on you. And actually when we were talking to people afterwards, and some of the comments we've had from people that came along, which was just like, I basically want every shopping experience I ever have going forward to be like that. And it was so funny walking past and just seeing everybody piled in.
Yeah.
I kind of loved it. It was so lush.
It was really, really lovely. And it was doing the thing it was meant to do, which was, there's something very different about seeing an item in real life, and it's always been an obstacle for us because obviously we're online, and this was so different. It was just great that people were gravitating towards something that they wouldn't always have necessarily have chosen if they were online.
Yeah.
So it did its job, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it was actually, so many people said, I never would have chosen this colour, or I wouldn't have kind of understood how, like so for example, the t-shirts.
Yeah.
So many people were just gushing about the shape and were like, please do this in every colour. It's like the perfect t-shirt. But because it's not jersey and it's knitted, it's elevated. So we had people buying them for their really corporate jobs and they could wear them at work. And then people being like, if I'm on I love wearing just like kind of what we wear a lot as we can't bother to like think about what to wear, just good pair of jeans and a baggy t-shirt, but because they're knitted, that it slightly elevates it so you could like go out of an evening in them. And the feedback on those was so amazing. But yeah, we had a lot of, I never would have chosen that.
Yeah, it was so nice.
And having Grace there as well, she got her geek on about like the detail, and she could really say to people like, did you know, like when they do this, and people were like, God, it's so much work goes into like the neckline of the sailor is such a big one.
Yeah.
And when you're walking around high street stuff, or you just, that's not really there for people to see. So I don't think people ever hone in on stuff, but when you know the workmanship that goes into creating that shape, people loved those little details.
Yeah,
it was so nice.
It was really amazing to see everybody sort of loving it so much in the flesh.
What was your favourite bit?
I think meeting people that have bought from us for a long time and recognising. So we had a queue of people when we opened the door, and I was there to sort of introduce myself and get everybody's name, and it was a real like, oh, I know who you are. Oh, I know who you are. Because you genuinely recognise the names, don't we?
Yeah.
And
so it always feels like we know each other. Like we've some of them we have met before. We've done very short term in real life events. So some people we have met, but most of them we haven't. But it kind of feels like you know these people.
Yeah.
We're like, I know what you have in your wardrobe. Yeah. And then in turn they're like, we watch you so much online or whatever. It does kind of feel. So it was a really like natural. It was like just being with a load of mates.
I also think it's really good for us to, where we show a lot of the behind the scenes. It's really good to for people to see us in
real life,
at work, on the go, and hopefully feel that the way that we are on Instagram and TikTok and in the pod, that it is genuine. I think it's
that I am actually really funny.
Basically, she's fucking hilarious. I get very overwhelmed. She gets a bit shouty.
I get very shouty.
Very, very, very rude.
Yeah.
And
we do fucking love rosé.
We fucking love a rosé.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so did the customers. I know. At one point I was like, I don't think it's going to go. It was gone.
We basically had to pre-order the rosé, and we weren't going to give our customers shit rosé. So it was like, if they had Whispering Angel there, we would have probably had Whispering Angel. But they had a very nice rosé that we had tried, and as what's his face? Oh my God, Richard Attenborough in the first Jurassic Park always says, "Spare no expense." We fucking went for it with the rosé.
I love how much of a geek you are.
I know, I'm such a film geek. But we pre-ordered the rosé. We did have soft drinks. It makes it sound like we want all our customers to be sort of absolutely boozed up to the eyeballs. We had sweets, we had loads of soft drinks, but we went for it with the rosé. And some of our customers stayed for the entire time. And then once everyone had made their purchase, Loads of people
I
stayed
love
and
that.
chatted.
Was actually
Yeah,
another one on my. So nice.
it was really, really nice. And it was so busy that none of us really caught up.
No.
I think at the very, very end, you were sat on the floor in the room at the end trying to, because this is a bit of a boring sort of admin side, but it was quite crucial. Isabel had to import what number, how much had been sold, so that come 7:00, when the launch happened, we had enough stock for the people online, and we needed to make sure those numbers were accurate. So, and then we sold out of the plaid blue jumper, which we have got some more that are coming in a few weeks. And the black hand knit tanks nearly got, all of that stuff. So we needed to make sure those numbers were right. But we didn't have a chance to catch up. It was like a blur. All I kept seeing when I was talking to customers in my sort of side eye was Evie, Grace, Tia, you guys like running back and forth to our stock room that we had to make sure that everybody, that sizes and blah, blah, blah. It was amazing. But then the fact that none of us really had a chance to even chat to each other, other than just to shovel some food in our mouths towards the end.
It was very much like, it was so nice though. I actually, at the beginning when you described it like planning a wedding, it actually kind of did feel, I don't feel like I had a full rounded conversation with anyone.
Yeah.
It was like, you were talking and someone was like, can I have this, or can you grab that? And then on your way to the stockroom, people were like, can you grab this? And then you're just coming back with like, trying to remember and
someone who
find people
who was the lady.
Somebody
was like, I'm really trying to look. I need to speak to Isabel because I want her to show me how she styles her bandana scarf.
Bandana,
and stuff like that. I was like, I haven't seen Isabel for like 3 hours.
Oh God, it was so good, and everyone loved meeting Charlie as well.
Yeah,
because I think we
pimp him out.
Given Charlie such a persona on socials, but he's just the nicest guy. So it was so nice for people to be able to have a chat with Charlie. It was good. It was really great. And we got so much amazing content, and we did some interviews with customers, and that was really nice. Also, people were really honest as well, which I do think, like, people always, brands always say, oh, send in your feedback, and it sounds so repetitive.
Yeah.
But it is so important, and actually having those real life events is like the feedback. It's like we want to gather it. It's like on speed, basically.
Yeah.
It's literally out of the mouth, rather than people don't have the consideration, would be like, oh, I better not write that actually, or maybe I'll tone that back. But some of the feedback on not necessarily stuff that was there, or being like, oh, I really don't like that because of this, or would you do that in this colour? And it's like, the colour capture stuff is actually really good. So
did anybody give any suggestions for the knitted tees as other colour options?
Honestly, no one was like this specific colour with the tees. It was just like the staple range, just bring out colours basically.
It would be great in a black as well.
Yeah.
It was the most amazing event. But so we'll give you a breakdown, because if I had just started Slow Love and somebody was at where we are now, I would like to know the sort of ins and outs of how we went about it and how we got to that number. And obviously, if we were to purely look at the numbers, we know how much the collection has cost us, how much profit we'll make from it, blah, 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 blah. But because it was so different for us, and we're not going to hold an event probably now until near Christmas time, I would imagine, which is a conversation we still need to have. We wanted to represent this collection in the best way possible, so we did go out for it. I mean, normally because this is actually the amounts that we have made of these knitted pieces has been quite low, because it's been a kind of trial to see if the short people were sort of open to the idea of the shorts, the co-ords, all quite kind of plain. But so it was our trip to Palma, which in itself was probably like £5,000.
Yeah, flights, hotel,
and food and stuff whilst we're out there.
Yeah,
I'd say the cost of photographer. So that's one cost. Cost of photographer, Poppy, and the studio again was probably like $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 9.
Yeah.
The Hoxton, the Hoxton
The room
hire was
hire.
3. Wine was $1,000. That's another $4,000.
There's something else with the Hoxton.
I mean, we had
well.
tote bags.
Yeah, the
Limited
tote
edition
bags.
tote bags was a lot of money. I can't now, off the top of my head, remember how much it was.
I think it was about £1,200.
Yeah.
Hiring
The
the
minivan, that was $200 because we got some company Dizzo.
Yeah.
And so really, and then we stayed there. So staying there was another cost. So it was
Quite a punchy
budget.
Yeah.
When you add all of that up for really what the return will be. But it wasn't a simple conversion of spending this much is going to provide us with this much sort of profit and loss.
Mm-hmm.
It was a marketing,
Yeah, of course,
long-term view. It was really important. So this is a really good indicator as well as to why we would want to spend that time with our customers and invest in representing this new sort of look for us with this collection. Is we've sold over half of our collection already. It's less than a week. 80% of the customers who have bought all of this sort of half collection are returning customers of ours, which speaks volumes in itself.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. We would never normally, that ratio of marketing budget to collection, we would never go that big.
I actually remember so clearly when you and Grace were initially doing the concept for this, and when you kind of fed it back to the team, and all of us were a bit like, oh my God, that's really different. And you making a really clear line and being like, at some point, we have to do something different. We can't just, creating the same stuff will work for a very certain period of time. You have to branch out and you have to do that. So I think we went into this knowing that it was a trial, it kind of, and we were confident because obviously we love the pieces and we've spent as much time and effort making them perfect, like the shape of stuff. There are still real key elements to these pieces that are like Slow Love's, like the tick boxes that we go through with everything that we design. The shape has to be right for our core customers, and you know, that oversized, it's not clinging, it's not skimming, it's just such a flattering shape on, you know, we're still only doing the 2 sizes, and it has to be the length and breadth of
it has
our
to be
size
inclusive
range.
Of our who we picture when we think about Claire Beddoe. I said that to her.
God,
we have to think about
so
those
good.
customers, and we want to make sure that they always feel included.
Yeah.
But it's not, we wouldn't be doing our job within a technically a creative industry to provide our customers with the same thing that we know works. We need to give them something different, and I feel like they trust us.
Yeah.
So it was an experiment that has gone well. But that's also why we decided to go big.
Yeah. And now we can say, right, these pieces really worked. Let's continue to do that. But we couldn't have done that without you and Grace really taking that plunge and designing a completely fresh thing, and also really creating a bougie marketing push, and also getting ourselves in real life situation with our customers to get that, like, seeing people. But I don't think people really, and it happened when we did the pop-up in Kindred, seeing people gravitate towards stuff that we didn't think they would. That is so important. And I remember us coming away from that and you going, we have to grow our staple collection. Yeah. People know the hand knits really do speak for themselves online. They're big and bright and chunky, but the staple stuff is so more, you know, that quiet luxury, that really understated, the way it's made. And when you put that in front of someone in real life, that's when they like really shine. And then we know we need to market that better in this way, or we need to, when we're doing an in real life event. And actually we bought way more staple stuff to the Hoxton events than if we hadn't done an in real life event before, we probably wouldn't. It would have been like, oh, let's just bring all the hand knits.
Yeah.
But actually it was like, people need to see those.
The lovely lady, I'm really sorry, I think her name was Jess, who works for the Hoxton and wanted to pop in and meet us. She was wearing a Tutti Frutti, had a tote bag, and what she wanted to come and look at in real life was the Morello cherry colour.
Yeah.
Because she said it's really hard to tell what this is like online, but I need to see it now. I wanted to see it in the flesh. And she was like, oh, so nice. And I was like, it's like a dusty aubergine, but how do you get that across to people?
It is tricky. So yeah, it definitely, luckily, has paid off. I don't like to use the word luck because I find it feels, luck sounds like we really...
That sounds like something my dad would say to me.
Yeah, you're so lucky.
Yeah, you were really lucky this time, it paid off.
But it wasn't a finger in the air job, but it really was like a line in the sand. We are going really different.
Yeah. And now we know. So there's a couple of, so for autumn, winter, not to jump ahead, but there's a couple of pieces that is same. So Grace and I showed, and we didn't know how this was going to go. And I was like, oh, I don't think these guys look that enamored with the concept of this. But we've just signed them off. Yeah. They look absolutely fucking great.
Amazing. Yeah.
Going to do them in 3 sizes.
And actually it's quite interesting because we're almost like your first sense check, because when Holly and Grace are first designing a collection, Holly creates like lots of Pinterest boards and she fires them over to Grace. We have discussed this a little bit on previous podcasts, and I think we covered quite a lot of it on Grace's podcast, but we don't see any of it until they've almost made a decision of what it's going to look like, and then they show us. So like our feedback is also still that we've all got really different styles and we're all different shapes, and you can kind of see it. But yeah, there was a couple of pieces which now we signed off and they look great. And Holly was like, when we showed you the initial concept for this top, I wish I had taken a photo of all of your faces, because you were like, that is so different. Or
you were all like, And then Grace and I had a meeting the next day. I was like, did you see everyone's face? And we showed them, and Grace was like, I nearly messaged you to say that went down like a lead balloon.
But it's so nice and it feels so nice.
Yeah.
So.
Remember when you tried on the shorts for the first time?
Yeah.
And they were in that horrible colour.
They were in like a flesh, light, like
my skin, basically.
It was awful. I mean, if you can think of the worst colour for a pair of shorts to be, that was that colour. And then Isabel tried them on and was like, no way in hell would I ever wear these.
And I love them so much so I'm fully in my shorts era.
You are fully in your shorts era. I love this set so much. When I wore this set, walking in this morning, and I had my new perfume on, so I was smelling bougie, that these guys got me for my birthday. Smelling bougie. Even Oscar, his 17-year-old boy, was like, oh, those shorts are amazing. And then he was like, are they yours? Like your brand? So I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Or everyone knows what they're doing. But it just feels, and it's so like comfy.
But cool as fuck. And
looks bougie.
Yeah, it really does. It's so nice. And the green, the colours are so... Actually, again, that's what so many people said. I didn't catch her name. She actually did buy the Midnight Navy set. The really cool woman with the short blonde hair. She was Australian.
Oh.
Bright pink lipstick. She had a pair of pink... She came in wearing like a pair of pink linen blend city shorts.
And a team player.
She had like really bright pink lipstick on, sunglasses. She came in. I was chatting with Heidi and Robin, and I was like, "Fucking hell, that woman looks so cool." And she was like, I wear a lot of navy because I team it with lots of colours, but she was like, the tones of the colours that you guys have chosen are so amazing. Like, it's not just a navy, it's such a lovely, rich, inky tone. And it was that was a nice bit of feedback.
Yeah.
And I remember when you guys were choosing that olive, when you were looking at that olive colour, choosing the green was, I think, actually probably the most time was spent maybe choosing that green.
It's definitely, it's a green that goes, you can wear it with anything. Oh, did you see that photo of when I went in London, I had my shrimp necklace?
Yeah, I loved that. And it looks so nice with your pink Stein. This is your Stein Goya bomber. That pink and green is such a lush combo. What else are we going to talk about? Logistics of the day. Actually, that was something that we were going to, because again, it's
not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's nothing like having a stall like Alice. Well, but it was, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. So I think if Holly touched on it really briefly, I think when you're planning an event as a business, something to get, it sounds really obvious, but knowing what your kind of gross profit for a collection is gives you kind of like a budget, or you then know, even if it's just subconsciously in the back of your mind, like, this is ultimately how much this collection is going to be from a profitability perspective. And then so like that kind of, I do think kind of plays into the logistics elements. But the logistics of the day was then planning what stock we were going to take and how much we were going to take, and making sure that we would still have enough to be able to offer all of our customers online. We also have a really big international presence, so making sure that people who could really not make it because you can't fly from the other side of the world for a 3-hour event. So making sure, like, planning all of that, planning what stuff outside of the collection to bring, that was kind of a good couple of hour job in itself. And Shah was amazing. Once we had just like pinned that down, like, she created a spreadsheet which really clearly had all of the stock we had in total, what we were taking with us to the events, what would then be left online if we had sold everything. And then that made my job at the end of the day much easier, so I could like work out the numbers. So having that done way before.
Tia, who we had taking, she was the one who was on the till, so she was taking the money, but she's got like a mind like a robot. So I was like, anyone has any queries about anything that's like not been accounted for, or you're not sure about what to do with this, she'll just remember like that.
Yeah, which she did.
So she was there helping Isabel.
So it was quite good because we had I could pull a sales report at the end of that event, which kind of gave us the black and white figures. But then Tia also, every sale she put through, she noted on the spreadsheet that Shah had made and printed what had gone. So she was we had like double done the numbers, and there were a couple of discrepancies, but between the sales report and the handwritten and Tia's mega mind, we were able to get within
Tia and a mega mind.
We were able to get within because it is so busy, and it's not, it's not you kind of have what you've got, and with a setup, and we are people, and we're going to do a stock check after everything, all of the online sales have gone out. We'll do a stock check, but we're confident that everything will be within a couple of numbers. Then unboxing everything, so making sure that we're bringing the right numbers, unboxing the stock, reboxing the stock, labeling all the boxes, making sure that we had the rails when we use stuff here, so we didn't have to buy stuff.
We had to take a massive mirror, and it was really good because really for that entire apartment they had one wincy little mirror. And our customers needed to have be able to see themselves properly, and floor to ceiling mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the only thing about that space is it's like, come on guys, you could at least have a couple of mirrors up on the wall. That's bonkers that we had to take that with us.
Of everything of the whole day, my only thing I would change is that we would have had 4 of those big. We've got these huge, what are they, 2 and a bit meters by a meter mirrors. They're massive, and I would have liked to have had more of those dotted around, but I mean, it still worked. And then we had to, Abby supplied the minibus.
She drove us.
We had Charlie,
So
Charlie and Holly's car.
That's where we saved money.
Yeah.
Really. So thank you to big bollocks Bazza, Abby's dad. So in a minibus, Abby drove us into central London in a minibus. Fair play. So that was all of us, and then Charlie and Ben, who couldn't bear our morning energy, drove separately and filled our car with stuff. So we paid for the minibus, but where we saved money was if we'd all gone on the train. That in itself, for how many of us did we go? So it was
like
me.
nine of us, 9 members of staff in total.
Yeah, so then it would be like what, $2,000 nearly probably.
God, yeah.
To transport the stock.
I was just getting to that, Slavo. And then the transport the transport of all that stock, and that's where stuff would have gone missing. And then all the hangers, and then all the tote bags. It's in themselves were like 3 boxes. The mirrors, everything that we needed. It would just that's where we probably saved, I reckon, £2,500.
Yeah,
probably ish.
Yeah. So, and also like we did discuss possibly sending the stock, but we have been so lucky that we have had little to no blips with any stock that we receive into Slow Love. This fucking collection is the only collection that we have like desperately needed.
The snake jumper was a bit
a bit touch and go, but we needed this because we had over 100 people literally coming to see this collection, and the shipment was delayed by 2 weeks. So we thought we had like absolutely nailed it. So we literally received this stock in our hands 2 days before the event. It was, at one point, Shara and I were planning to rent a Luton and go and collect it from Manchester the night before the collection.
The sort of butterfly effect of the fact that was delayed was we'd already paid for the Hoxton. Yeah. That was happening. People had got their tickets. Yeah. People had got flights from Ireland. Like, that train had left the station. That was happening with or without the stock. Yeah. So we had our samples, and that was it. Yeah. So up until we actually received the collection, it was, whereas we would normally I would start wearing, you would start wearing, we would start to show you guys behind the scenes of us wearing the whole collection at least a couple of weeks before, and get you, and so you can see how we style it and sort of how it wears, and we would get you used to it. But because we had just our samples, I didn't want to risk anybody wearing it, because it might have been the only thing we could have taken, and basically got the guys going to the launch to be able to try it on, and then they would have had to order it online, and we would have had to post it out, when the collection arrived. So we didn't really show off the collection that much on the run up to the launch, because we just couldn't risk it. We couldn't risk somebody spilling something, which happens a lot. Abby couldn't risk anything being spilt on or trashed, or basically meaning that it would take like that one piece out of the collection. We just couldn't risk it. So we weren't really promoting it until that Friday.
Yeah, that was quite stressy. And then we had to then get here at, what time did we have to get here in the morning?
6:45.
6:45. You had to leave your house at like 5 to drive to the other side of Cirencester to go and collect the bus. We were all then loading.
We'd already got it downstairs ready to go on though.
Yeah, we had everything packed, ready to go. And then all our office is up 1.5 flight of stairs. So it is a workout getting these big boxes of knitwear up and down the stairs. Loaded the van. Well, I say we loaded the van. Ben put 2 boxes in, and Abby was like, get out of my way. And loaded it like perfect. Holly and I were like, there's no way this is fitting in. And Abby like rolled her eyes at us so hard. She was almost blinded herself. And she was like, get out of my fucking way. I've grown up on the bus scene. Oh, fuck, I'm going to get this in there.
It's like when we were in Palma, do you remember? And we had to open that minibus or close the minibus
door,
and you were faffing with it, and Abby was like, no, you move it like this and then it clicks in. We were like, of course
You know a bus.
how this
you
bus works.
know a bus inside and out, don't you, Abby?
Yeah.
So she loaded the bus. Charlie loaded your car, and off we went.
Mm-hmm.
Long drive to London. So we're based in the kind of heart of the Cotswolds. It was Abby's. Was it your first time driving in London, or just the first time in the bus? So it's Abby's first time driving in London, and that realization when we got. So from the Cotswolds to London is about an hour, and then basically to get across London is exactly the same time. So Abby was like, "Oh, we're in London. Like, how much longer?" And we were like, "Another hour," because to get across is just slow and laborious. So yeah, and then leaving, we had to pack down everything that night, drive it back to the office in Cirencester.
Yeah, I felt really guilty.
I made an almighty fuck up on the way home, and my name was absolute mud. Everyone was knackered because once we had sat, because the hype of the day, and then when you were back in the minibus and sat, everyone was like, "Oh my god, we're tired," and there was a road closure. I had basically managed somehow to move my pin back to the office to Reading, so I took these guys back up the motorway for an entire junction before we realised that I had
Who
moved
was the
pin.
most angry when they realised what you'd done?
Ben didn't want to sit next to me anyway in the minibus, but I basically forced him to. This is Abby's other half, and we have a love-hate relationship. I love him, he hates me. I'm joking. It's kind of like a sibling relationship. So yeah, he didn't want to sit next to me anyway, and I basically made him. And then he was like, "Show me that pin on your phone, because I've just basically seen it in my peripheral vision, and that is not Cirencester." So I added on a good 40 minutes to the journey, didn't I?
Oh, mummy.
I know, it was bad. I felt so bad. But all was made well with a Burger King and a KFC at the service station, wasn't it?
Well, no, that was before.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, that was where the pin got moved.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were all very tired little beans, weren't we, when we got back?
And I had to take the minibus back.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
miss.
did. And Holly pulled a moonie at us as we drove from Hoxton.
I forgot I did
It
that.
was so funny. Ben didn't see. We were like pissing ourselves laughing. He was like, "What's so funny?" We were like, "Holly just got her whole arse out at the side of the road to us." It was so funny. Anyway, all in all, it was bloody good.
It was
And I loved
so
it.
good.
And I'm like, I want to do it again. It really does feel like post-wedding vibes. And we've had such lovely influx of messages, and the amount of reels that people made.
Yeah,
and it was just
really,
been so nice.
Yeah,
it really has.
It was so good.
But yeah, they do come with a lot of planning. A lot of planning.
I have one thing to mention.
Go on then.
Is that basically that budget we used, a lot of that's also coming off autumn winter. We're not going to spend nowhere near that much.
Oh
for
yeah.
autumn winter.
I think when you're budgeting for any of these things, you can't, in the grand scheme of things, everything's spread out across the whole year.
Yeah.
We're not going to fold. You wouldn't fold as a business if you kept everything in the lane. So it is ultimately spread over the course of your financial year. But yeah,
And we're going to, I think there was a couple of weeks where Abby and I basically wanted to do Yellowstone Ranch, but it really doesn't go that well with the idea of our autumn winter concept. So we are going to probably shoot that in London.
Yeah.
Keep it
ultimately,
London vibes.
you just
We might
wanted
stay in
to go
London. Yeah,
to Yellowstone, didn't you?
we did. Yeah.
Pushed
There
hard.
is a certain jumper that would look good.
Yeah.
That's true.
We can't do that.
That was
For one
basically the one
jumper.
jumper.
Can you imagine? So I've got an idea. We're
We
gonna
kind of did that with the Spaced Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the start though.
Mm.
That was the spring. That was what you've done here with spring summer. That was your first trial of then what has followed, which is epic content trips.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw such a funny thing the other day, which we're going to do instead of a would you rather.
What is it?
You have to we're on a desert island,
Yeah.
you and me, obviously, because why on earth would we go with the people that we've actually chosen to marry? So you and I are on a desert island. You have to give me 3 reasons as to why you would survive on a desert island. And I have to give you 3 reasons as to why I would survive out of the 2 of us on a desert island.
Okay.
I think I would survive because I would eat anything that doesn't kill me. Like, I'd eat a fish's arsehole to survive. That face is everything. Holly, like, doesn't eat the end of a gherkin. So true. We went for a drink the other day and we had these, like, little plate of Parma ham and these gherkins. So I looked over and there was this little pile of, like, gherkin ends. And I was like...
Do you remember when you first started working with
When
me?
I first started, we used to walk down to M&S every day and buy a sandwich. And Holly used to, like, scooch behind her big Mac screen, and she'd get the sandwich out and she'd, like, open it up and, like, pick. And actually, Grace said something to me, it's so funny to me the other day. She was like, have you noticed that Holly would, like, smell anything before she, like, gets near it? And she would, like, pick anything that, like, looked remotely abnormal. Well, not even abnormal, just... And she would, like, pick out bits of her sandwich, or as she was picking them, she'd be like... And I remember as our relationship got more confident and, like, being with each other, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, picking the sandwich apart. So that's number 1. I'd eat anything. She'd probably die of starvation the first day. 2, what would be my last one is an obvious one. What would be what another reason why I'd survive and you wouldn't? So the eating thing, probably just, like, sheer strength. I'll be like, right, we need to build a hut. Can you just help me pick this up? And you'd be like, absolutely not. Yeah. And they don't serve rosé.
I'd basically be, like, drying out.
Yeah. Holly would just be in the corner, just like a raisin, just
I'd
drying out, becoming weaker by the fucking millisecond because it's like, but you'd have a banging tan.
That's true.
That's actually one of your reasons why you survive. I'd die of, like, sunburn blistering.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would only be able to work in the shade.
I would survive because actually I reckon I'd probably be able to cook quite a lot. And I'd be like, so I think I would be a good forager, even though I'd be funny about what I would eat.
Yeah. You can eat the cooked stuff, I'll eat the fish arseholes.
Yeah. Second of all, I'm not a hypochondriac, so I feel like if I cut myself, I would just put my foot in the sea if I cut my foot. Whereas you would be like, I'm going to internally bleed out. And then you'd be like, I've also just caught norovirus. And I'd be like, you mean you've just got the shits? And you'd be like, no, it's norovirus and I need to call, like, the ambulance. So it'd be like, first of all, where would you have caught norovirus? And there's no ambulance. So I feel like that's where I'd be quite good.
Yeah, that's true.
Third, if we actually managed to fucking get a raft that you would have to build
to live.
For us to leave, I don't get seasick. Whereas it would be a fucking palaver. Once we were on that boat, I'd have to knock you out because I'd be like, you are, like, watching me, or you're going to be, or the thought that you would get seasick would make you seasick, and it would be too much for me to listen to. So I'd be like, shut your mouth.
Yeah, she'd knock me out and then be like, oh, I'm too weak to actually do this raft now. We're both going to die. So what we'd actually need to do is just admit that we're both going to die really quickly, and we just sit there, shriveling up, making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And we'd go out laughing, wouldn't we?
Yeah. We would try and do anything to light a fire, but I don't know if we'd be able to do it.
We'd be fucking freezing cold. Oh, that's another one. I've got fucking great fat stores. You haven't. Another reason why I survive longer. You'd be in the sun, I'd be in the shade.
Where we're both really good as well. It's like, I feel like the stress. So say it was someone else that was going on the desert island who gets, like, toilet fright. I feel like they would get, like, that would become a stressful part when you're trying to survive. Whereas you and I would be like, we're going,
don't go back there.
Our poo hole's behind this, like, where this tree, that's where we're going to do our poos. You'll dig up a big hole, I'll be our poo hole. Yeah. And then we'll be like, sweet, at least we're both laid back enough to know that if you go there, it's because you're going to do a poo.
Yeah. Patting each other on the back, being like, have a good one. On that note, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. That was a good one.